Hello everyone and welcome to a building guide and review of Rhianna and Luciella. Today we're doing this video a little bit earlier than usual, but for the most part this character is pretty figured out in terms of builds. So in terms of like an actual showcase, we'll be doing that afterwards in a separate video. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. But in terms of actual going over the kit, we'll be doing that today and how you should build the character. So sit tight and play on the video on the back and just listen in. She is going to be a very aggressive thief, now flaunting the new highest base speed in the game of 132. As you might expect, this character is a very aggressive character, and she also happens to be a very aggressive hybrid DPS. Now, she can switch between Rhianna and Luciella, as we're going to go through in this video, and one character does damage while the other one does more of the debuff stuff. But the thing is that this is all mixed in one character, making her very flexible, which I can see her being a very overpowered character for that reason. So first and foremost, let's go over the kit. So here's the S2. So the S2, there's two separate ones for both Rhianna and Luciella. So for Rhianna, she's going to be doing the attacks and for the debuffs, right? So she's going to do a single target attack that binds and defense breaks the target both for 2 turns, and then this will initiate in an extra turn. And when the target has the debuff, Luciella will do an extra attack with the S1. For the most part, this skill does have ignore ER for a 20% slow burn, so you should be able to get the extra attack more times than not. And once you read the S3 effect, then there's no way for most cases you're not going to get at least one debuff on the character. On the side of Luciella, after she does her S2, she's going to give herself increased attack for 3 turns and then initiate the extra turn. And when the target's health is 50% or less, then Rhianna's going to activate her S1 as an extra attack, and this and we're going to see in a moment. So skill 3 is going to be a combo attack between both of the characters. Luciella is going to do an AoE attack that ignores damage share, while Rhianna dispels 2 buffs and inflicts fear. So you can think of this whole attack as hitting all enemies, ignoring damage share, dispelling 2 buffs, and inflicting fear on all enemies. This skill also gives a barrier to the caster for 3 turns that's based off an attack, and you can think of Rhianna and Luciella to have this unique effect on them at all times in the match. This unique effect giving them 70% evasion, as well as effectiveness based on 30% of speed. So if you're going to play this character roughly around 310 speed, I would say you can assume that Rhianna and Luciella will get around 85 effectiveness and crit damage for free, or like around 80-ish, 80 to 90 effectiveness and crit damage for free. So this character has a ton of free stats just based on speed, which is the reason why there's a pretty given way you want to build the character, because you're losing stats if you don't build this character high speed. And last but not least, here is the S1 effects. Rhianna inflicts erosion for 2 turns, and a critical hit will immediately detonate that erosion. Erosion effect basically gives its additional damage based on the amount of lost health. And Luciella has a regular basic attack that just gives herself increased attack, as well as restores health on the attack. So going off of all those skills, she has a lot that she can possibly do. She has healing, she has debuffs, she has damage, she does everything, and she even has evasion and effectiveness. So like I said earlier, this character is so flexible that I cannot see her not being overpowered. So a little bit of things to note. Rhianna is the debuff for Luciella's damage. It's just a little not too crazy, but it's just something to note. Now this character is a little bit stat hungry. Now she does get a bunch of free stats in terms of effectiveness and speed off of her 1 butterfly's after dream, but that does not diminish the fact that you're going to need some very high speed pieces. You're going to need some 20+ speeders on this character on average, as well as after you get those speed stats, you're going to need some crit stats and some other stats that are required to get her to function. Now this character is rocking 70 to 100% evasion at all times, which makes her very hard to kill, especially when she has a barrier on her, which is quite insane. So not only is this character insanely fast, but this character is slightly hard to kill. That being said, there's no way she can have a lot of HP, so there's possibilities that you can just straight up kill her with enough damage. But for those low damage characters, be wary because they're not going to be able to do damage to her. And I'm pretty sure there's nothing on this kit that says that is a non-contact skill, meaning that you need to hit in order to have debuffs dispelled, right? Or in order for you to land your debuffs, right? Because there's nothing that says before attacking. If it was before attacking, then possibly you do not need to hit, but that's not on any skill here. So for your debuffs, you probably need to hit in order to land them. So let's talk about good stats. This character honestly likes a lot of things. Your good stats is definitely your speed. Speed is the most important one. Attack, health is always good if you can afford it, and crit chance, you're going to need some crit chance in your build. As for some optional stats, if you want some additional effectiveness to boost on top of the free ones that you get, by all means you can do that, because that means you can push your effectiveness from a baseline of around 90 to 100 to maybe 150, which makes you be able to tag a bunch of other things. Defense is helpful because if you are playing for the long game, the defense can help keep you alive, but this is by all means not required because it is hard to build all these stats when you're very fast. And some additional crit damage for the same reason as building additional effectiveness. If you want the extra damage on top of what you already get from your free stats, then by all means you can do that. And of course, bad stats is effect resistance. This does nothing for this character. Alright, let's talk about artifacts. Now, Violet's Talisman, if you go first and press S2 twice and go for your extra turn, you immediately have 90% evasion. Meaning Violet's Talisman is arguably the best if you want to sit around 100% evasion very quickly. Secret Stormsword is pretty good if you are going to get outsped, as well as it will increase aggressiveness for the character. So I think it's actually pretty good, especially if you're fighting non-attack skill characters, and it will just help you cut. Victoria's Flag gives you 20% evasion, leaving Rhianna and Luciella around 90% evasion, and every single basic attack will CR push them by 10%, which makes her way more aggressive and way harder to deal with. So I think it's a pretty nice artifact, but it does not give you any free stats outside of the 20% evasion. So realistically, this is only if you want more additional CR pushing, but it is very good in terms of cycling. RNL and Master of Nightmares are both extra turn skills. Master of Nightmares is going to be more consistent for you, while RNL is going to be less consistent because RNL procs on any skill, which is the problem, because if it procs on your extra turn skill, you cannot take an extra turn. But if it procs on your S3 and your S1, then you do take an extra turn. As for Master of Nightmares, it can literally only proc on your basic attack skill, so it should be fine, but how often are you hitting on your basic attack skill? Who knows, right? Shepherd is not terrible. You do get healed up, but Shepherd does give you additional evasion, as well as it gives you additional damage, so it's not bad. Wind Rider, if you kill, gives you stealth, which protects Rhianna on top of the barrier that she gets. So meaning when you have a barrier and stealth, if the character gets hit by an AoE attack, she's still going to be in stealth as long as she still has a stealth buff. So yeah, our Wind Rider is pretty good. Summer of Winter Twilight gives, sorry, this is not even winter, I think it's Summer Sword. This allows you to give Rhianna and Luciella AoE pen damage on her S3, which can help kill because her S3 does not have any pen and there's no ignore ER on the S3, I believe. So for those two reasons, it's a little bit more balanced, but this weapon here, this artifact, allows for AoE penetration. So it'll be more damage on your S3 attack, as well as when you kill, it will be a CR push for your team. And everything below here is not as good. You can run it if you want to. The Blitzkrieg Crescent is pretty good for counter attacks, but realistically, you could probably get a little bit more value out of the upper ones. And Basket just gives you Gab. I guess pretty good if you want to nuke something, but she already gets attack buff, so that's really up to you. Alright, so in terms of her best stats, once again, she's pretty restricted to speed set because she needs to be fast to get her free stats. In terms of 2P sets, crit set is pretty good because when you're this aggressive in speed, getting the appropriate crit stats that you need, which is around 50 or like 47 I believe, might be a little bit hard. So running crit set can alleviate that for you, but if you do have enough stats without crit set, then the other 2P sets are pretty good. For instance, Immunity is pretty nice if you are challenging Zeos. Otherwise, Torrent set for the damage, hit set so you can get some additional effectiveness for the fair, or the brand new set that's coming out, Forever set. When you take an extra turn, you get 20, I think it was like 20% extra damage. That's also pretty good on there. Now, this character is pretty given at a stat line, so this is the only stat line I'll be providing to you. You want to be as close or higher to 300 speed as possible. You want as close or above 3k attack, but your aim is for 3200. It might be a little bit hard, but you want to get as much attack as you possibly can at your aggressive speed. You want to be as close to 10k HP as possible. It might not be possible if you're running Torrent set, for instance. So if you're running Torrent set, you could probably be around, you don't need to worry about your HP because it's going to drop. But the bonus being as close to 10k as possible means that with the evasion, you have an absurd amount of survivability. But if you cannot get that much HP, it is okay, because once again, at this high of a stat line, it becomes very, very hard in order for you to get there. So instead, it would be like roughly, like maybe 9k HP if it becomes very hard for you. Next up, effect. For crit chance, you're going to be at 100%, but you get a ton of free crit stats. So realistically, if you're trying to prepare a build on Rhianna, you really only need 47 crit chance and substats, because the rest of it you just get completely for free off of her base stats as well as her self imprint. So roughly, you only need 74 crit chance in your stats, but you do want to be at 100 crit chance because this character needs it. Effectiveness, if you want to run some bonus effectiveness on top of the effectiveness that you already have from her unique effect, around 0 to 50, which will push her effectiveness around into the 150, like 140, 150 range, which makes it very high taggability for a lot of characters. And then last but not least, for your crit damage, you can run a little bit higher, so you can push your crit damage into like the 300 and so. And in terms of recommended pieces, it looks like I completely forgot to change it. So in terms of your right side, you want either an attack or effectiveness ring, your necklace preferably attack, and your boot preferably speed. Now if you want to run maybe crit damage neck, you can if you have the speed, but this character at this high of a speed, running attack neck is probably better since you do get free crit damage. Last but not least, here's some combo characters or counter picks that you could pick with this character. So these are just a bunch of characters in the counter picks there that are probably really good against her. Arseti to slow her down, Young Senya plus a green unit to completely take over the turn, Arbiter Vildred can take 2 turns possibly, and also has 90% evasion, which is pretty good into the Ornell S3, and Tori is probably a really good pick. Now everyone else in the bottom picks are counter picks question mark, because I have no idea if they will work or if they're going to be a fake unit. Rhianna realistically is a really good one, but you're going to get into a racing situation, and for anyone who doesn't know what racing in this Epic 7 is, basically saying I'm faster than you. So if you somehow have a way faster Rhianna than your opponent's Ornell, you could pick her as a counter pick. But for the general player base, that's probably not going to be an option for you, which is the reason why she's in counter picks question mark. As for the best friends there, these are characters that should pair well with them. These are mostly cleave characters, but if you're playing turn 2, she should be able to fit with your standard turn 2 units, which would be like your Estelles, your Bossarunkas, you know, your Ruels. They're going to pair with these characters very well, obviously. But in terms of like actual like combo picks for like cleave characters you want to pick with her, these are the characters that you're probably going to play with her. Anyways, if you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.